North Bennington Graded School District Prudential Committee to order at 7:01. We're meeting tonight in the school gymnasium because the second and third floor hallways are being, which are hardwood, are being refinished. So we transplanted the meeting to the gymnasium, which doesn't have a problem with us being on it. We should introduce ourselves, since we don't usually do that, but we should do that, starting with Donna Leap on my right and coming to the left.
Good evening, I'm Donna Leap. I'm Assistant Superintendent in SVSU. Glad to be here tonight. The superintendent intended to come, but at the last minute he got stalled at the Shaftesbury board meeting.
Maria Skelly, board member.
Matthew Patterson, board member.
Ray Molyneux, board member and chair.
Tim Schrader, board member. John Bullock, board member.
Mary Rogers, treasurer.
All right. First order of business is public comments, but we have no public. So we'll move on to finance. There's a budget status report in the documents that were on the website. It is unfortunately incomplete. Because it's missing some line items. The most important line items in the whole budget, actually, for special education and for tuition to schools for our students. So that needs to be corrected. Otherwise, it seems fine to me. And then we have the treasurer's report just handed out at the meeting here. Does anyone have comments about treasurer's report? Or
I would like to just point out to you on the treasurer's report at the end of June, the one ended 6/30, there was actually an item on there which really belongs to fiscal 2017. And that was the interest on the QSCAP bond,
Right.
which was a check dated 7/1, but
Yes.
it was actually posted by the bank a day early. But I
Okay.
had to show it here, otherwise
yes,
the
because
bank
it's a cash flow
it wouldn't
statement.
reconcile. But it is properly accounted for
Yep.
on
It
the...
it will not be
Right.
deducted
Yes,
from
on that. And
fiscal
then-
16
Correct.
budget.
Then I will also point out on the July report that there was $7,000 that was needed to take an advance on the line of credit to cover the July checks.
Okay,
There will be $132,000 that will be taken on the line of credit tomorrow to
Okay.
cover the checks that you'll be voting on today.
Right.
There is a little bit in addition in the checking account. Also do note on the July report that the municipal bond bank loan obligation sits at $30,000. And the qualified school construction bond is down to $365. So
okay,
those are both reflective of the recent payments that were
okay.
made.
All right, the revolving loan that Mary is mentioning that she took $7,000 out of, as it's listed on this treasurer's report. In June, we approved a line of tax anticipation financing, shall we call it now, since it's not the same sort of note as previously, but we approved it as a line of credit. And whereas it had been proposed by Mary that as a tax anticipation note, it would have to be $392,000, the actual line of credit is $325,000 because that was what the cash flow showed we needed. And that's what we're working on. We draw from that line of credit and reimburse it as necessary
And the
during the year.
analysis was that we should save on interest because there isn't the same arbitrage as had been in
Yep.
quite some years past.
Right.
One final thing I would note on the July report is that We also had to make an advance of $21,420 for the federal portion of the QSCAB interest bond. This is very, very unusual.
Yes.
All the paperwork was properly filed back in May so that people could receive the federal portion of that. The paperwork somehow got lost, so the federal department did not have the proper form. Although it was resent, there is, you just get pushed to the back of the pile.
Mm-hmm.
As of yesterday, Dave Olson, the corporate banker, is on top of this, and as of yesterday, he made another inquiry to find out where that was. We don't have it yet. So hopefully that's not going to be too much delayed. The sad thing is that we did have to take from our cash, our funds to pay for that, and we're not going to get our interest, no matter how small, reimbursed on that.
Right.
So, there's a couple of months we'll have to borrow $20,000 that we didn't anticipate doing. But
So just to put that in context for the public who may be watching at some point, when the district borrowed $425,000 to do major improvements, one of which was to provide the school with a new underground storage tank for its oil supply, and other money was spent on improving the operation of the boilers, the heating system for the school, among some, and then some site improvements to the property. We took a QSCAB, which is a bond that we pay payments into an escrow account that earn interest to eventually accrue to the amount of the bond when it's due in 15 years from that date, I think it is. The interest is subsidized by the federal government. It was subsidized all but $1,000, but now it's considerably somewhat less than that, but it's still a very good deal. And what the payment Mary is talking about is the subsidy to the interest payments that the district makes. And it didn't come in time, so we had to borrow the money to pay that, and we won't get that interest back. Okay. Any other questions about finances from the board? Okay, the consent agenda, which has 2 sets of minutes from June. We did not have a meeting in July, so there are no minutes there. And a bulky computer here. Do you have the second page of the agenda? Well, it would include
June 8th and June
minutes for
20th.
June 8th and June 20th, and the warrant for the current month, August. On the warrant is one item, which is
Tuition.
a monthly tuition payment to the village school of North Bennington.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I need a second.
I'll
folks.
second.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Matt. I assume there will be no discussion. If there is, speak up. Otherwise, I'll call the question. Well, shall we approve the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's all of us. Next agenda item,
Policies.
policies. All right. John, would you like to speak to? Yes.
It looks like we've got 4. 3 of them are adopt, one of them is just a warn. The warning is optimum class size. This one will not affect the elementary students in this district, will affect students in the middle school and high school.
Mhm.
The policy committee's gone back and forth on this many times. I don't really see a reason to hold it up. It's probably not a great document, but it'll suffice for what they need it to do.
Well, I would suggest it needs some pruning and editing.
Okay, so what does that mean in terms of?
Do you really want to take that on, or do you care?
No, I don't know if I care that much, but I would do it. I would have done it today if I could have figured out this program that I'm operating in here. And sent suggestions.
Yeah, I agree. It could be trimmed in a number of places. It could be clarified in a number of places. Its intent is not clear. And in fact, the policy committee itself seems to have differing opinions on what the intent is.
Yes.
That
Well,
said,
there's-
I don't know if it's really worth our time to.
There's a reference to class size being the number of students in the room with respect to a ratio, which is clearly just not true.
Which part are you actually referring to?
First paragraph, I think.
11, 12, 13.
Is that just a
Optimum class
definition
size
of
will be
how
determined.
they're using that term in this?
Well, they can't
policy?
be using it that way. I don't think it's consistent. So I don't really want to go through it because I don't
Let
think
the
we have
policy, let the policy committee deal with that.
Yeah,
And I would make a motion to warn it.
yeah, I think we should warn it. I think, because that's the appropriate way to get our contributions to changes made too.
I think too, just because I've been at their committee meetings, that if it is, there are so many strikeouts in here, it's hard to really read what it is.
Boy, I'll say, you're
But
right.
people
there.
want to see the strikeouts, so they're left in there.
Yeah.
When you get it back, it will be cleaned up, and it will be much more
Yeah,
a readable
but-
document.
But
apologize.
I've been reading it, I've been ignoring the strikeouts, so my comments are relevant to what's actually there. That's
And
still
if you
part
have
of
a
it.
comment, we certainly can bring
Yep,
that back to
I
the
will,
committee.
I will do that.
Okay, right.
She's got a pen that needs to come back her way. Did some?
It's here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Donna, I was a little surprised that this got warned because I thought we were going to spend more time on it. Was that your understanding, or?
No, I think people got it to the place where they thought this was a draft, knowing that if it went around to, when it comes back, there may be some cleaning up to do in, like I said,
Yeah.
in reference to making it a cleaner document, but also if there are comments, and that's why I encourage people,
Okay.
if you have comments or edits you'd like to make, that's what the committee, that's their work, so.
Yep.
But they are always looking for your feedback.
Yep. Yep. And I iterate that I didn't mean that we shouldn't warn it. I'm just, and so maybe I should have just not brought that up at all. Sorry.
And there's a motion.
A motion to warn 6,400.
Maria seconded.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, you want to speak to the
The other
three
three,
to
well,
adopt?
certainly, if we jump down to C and D, the anaphylaxis and the fundraising, those are very straightforward, and I would recommend that we adopt them. The visits to school is an issue that I'm not quite sure how or why it was raised, but it just wants to, the aim is to give the administrators more control over who enters the building and when, which is fine.
Okay. Yep. And we've seen it before when we warned it, and I think you gave a presentation then that you thought it was acceptable, and I agree with that, so.
Can I make a motion?
Why don't we do them all, or do you want to do them individually?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt policy 1020, visits to school, policy number 5185, anaphylaxis, policy number 5200, fundraising for adoption.
We need a second.
Second?
Thank you.
Hi, John.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Mhm.
So we've just adopted all of the policies so named. The next item of business is Act 46 discussion, and we now have a community member here. Bruce Learman, who has been running an ad hoc study committee of Act 46.
Do you want to speak to any of that? Do you want to speak about the,
I was going to give you a very brief update on some of the things that are going on with the committee right now. If I can remember them all. Yes. First of all, we're starting a series of informational meetings within the community. Posters have been put up. The first one's going to be next Monday, just at the back table in Powers. And there's just informational meetings to try to draw in the community and to educate them more about what some of the factors in considering our response to Act 46 are. We're not particularly selling anything. The questions that we're posing on the posters around the community are strictly of a general nature. We'll have 1-hour discussions. Our plan is to have probably 2 of these meetings a week, one during the day and one in the evening. And though we are starting, as I say, at Powers and the train station, it's our plan to expand that into other districts as well. I talked to Jeff Leake last night from Shaftesbury. He's quite supportive of the effort, just as a way to try to get more community involvement and understanding in an early stage, because we may have to move fairly quickly this fall in coming to a decision, and we need to lay the groundwork for the decisions we'll have to make then. That's one of the things. The second thing, of course, is there will be an Act 46 Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock right here, and we'll be discussing some of the things that we're doing along those lines, and some of the things that are going on in other parts of the state. So that meeting is certainly open to the public, and we welcome people to attend. The third thing is that we've been reading some of the conditions for the preferred governance structure that are part of Act 156, and it appears that there are ways that this district or all of the districts could make a decision on forming the modified unified union district that would essentially dissolve the current district and fold others into the new district if there was a majority vote of the districts to do that. That might be a path for us to seek our goal of having a K-12 tuitioning district without going through as many voting cycles as we earlier anticipated. It looks like this could be done in one vote. So certainly we'll be bringing that up with the study committee at the meeting next week, and hopefully we'll have enough information to present about how that might work to have a meaningful discussion about it. Because it seems that this is probably the only really viable option for us to seek what we want through the existing SU study committee. It's either find something related to the development of a modified union district, or we probably can't achieve the goals that we have for our district through that study committee. So it's time for us to see if we can get a discussion going about that and how it might work for all of the districts. So I'll be providing more information tomorrow night at the advisory committee meeting on that, and hopefully we'll have more information to present at the next study committee meeting. That's it.
I would just, I didn't know if you had seen the new guidance that was put out on.
For the alternate structures?
Yes.
Yes, I have seen that.
Because I thought in your particular circumstances, it was interesting, it felt like it offered more options that might be available, like you're saying, within some kind of a larger structure, there can be some access to meeting the needs of your district as well. It felt in the original act like it was sort of all one plan, but this seemed to say there could be modifications to it that would be at least received and considered.
Right. it does seem from those guidelines, the State Board of Education would prefer to see us follow one of the other governance structures because the standards there are stringent.
Well, and
And
they're
there
clear.
are more things that you have to do to meet their judgment as to whether or not they successfully addressed Act 46 than there might be if we used the preferred structures under Act 156.
Yeah, there are
It's-
some possibilities. Well, the one thing that I did read in the new guidance was a lot of referring to schools that were tuitioning, and that you wouldn't meet the same model as some of the other districts, but that would be considered. It felt like it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that particularly that's appropriate if in fact we leave MAU and want to form associations with other structures. There we might be talking about an alternate structure that served the needs of several
speak to that,
tuitioning
too.
K-12 districts. Certainly that'll be part of the discussion as well with the study committee as far as whether it's possible to define an alternate structure that meets everyone's needs. So,
I was amused by the fact that, you know, they're holding these alternate structures to a much more heightened criteria. And then on the other side of the mouth, talking about equity, you know, across districts, and the notion that there's no fairness in their, you know, they're really twisting very hard to put people into the pegs that they created originally.
yeah, and we don't.
We're
we don't-
not going there. So.
Right.
so-
Now, Bruce, I have a question spurred by looking at the minutes for June 12th. It said that you were going to speak to the head of school of, is it
At the Sharon.
Sharon Academy?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have spoken with him, and I've spoken with the deputy headmaster as well, just as a beginning of forming a relationship. We haven't really come to any decisions about how we might work in a complementary way, but I have made that contact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that gets into more questions about what the real threats are to independent academies. I don't think it really has to do so much with our response to Act 46,
Right.
but what ultimately we may have to do to protect the idea, or protect independent academies.
Before we leave you, I'd like to commend you and thank you for what is turning out to be a full-time effort on your part. I appreciate it a lot, and I think the community will ultimately reap the benefit from it.
Well, and on the other hand, I'd like to say that I think the support I'm getting from people in the community is in terms of coming up with new ideas and suggestions about how we may address educating the community and making a decision. I'm really feeling more support in that way from more people than I have before. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
very pleased with that.
this effort that you and Meg and the committee are undertaking is an excellent outreach.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that outreach is designed not to be really about North Bennington either,
Yeah.
or District 1. Hopefully it will expand into the broader Bennington community, so we need everybody to understand the implications of this. I think people are just not listening yet.
Yeah,
And,
and time is.
Time is getting really short.
Yeah.
Matt, would you like to speak to our attendance at the school choice caucus in Montpelier?
Well, again, it's not really Act 46C in the sense, it was, Ray and I went up to Montpelier for a day a couple weeks ago, and they had a forum. People testified to their concerns about the pressures on school choice in among the 90-some communities in the state that opt to tuition their kids elsewhere. There was 3 different students, actually, from Long Trail School, gave really compelling testimony about their experience of having been, having lived in a choice community and had the opportunity to go to Long Trail in this case, and how it positively affected their education and their futures. We got to meet a number of people who were, parts of these choice organizations. Bruce Lisman was there pushing really hard. That's now a moot point, of course, and Representative Sharp sat there in the corner and didn't say a word for 3 hours.
But he did attend.
Yeah. He didn't dare say a word, I think. I don't know. But it was fun. We had a good trip.
Yeah.
Saw a moose coming home.
Saw a bull moose
Bull
coming.
moose, yeah.
One thing more about the students from Long Trail, there were actually 4 there, but only 3 got up and spoke. And they were all very poised and articulate. But the context in which they presented themselves was that they had all been in public schools that were not meeting their needs. And they had a choice, and they took the choice to go to Long Trail, where they found their particular niche in secondary high school education. So I think it was an important point to be made that public high schools are great. They have lots of opportunities for kids. Mount Anthony has lots of opportunities, but it's not always for every child, and not every child is successful, and that's really grossly indicated by the graduation rate around the country and in Vermont and at MAU. Okay, any discussion from the rest of the board here, or shall we move on because we're making lightning progress here?
Superintendent's report.
Well, I didn't really prepare a report for you tonight. I apologize. I just...
You didn't know you were going to be
I
here.
didn't know I was going to be here. I would have thought about some wonderful things for you. But I would mention, just in reflecting on the Act 46 work that's being done, that the Act 46 committee met last month and did hire Steve Sanborn as a consultant to help the committee along with the process. I felt it was a very open-minded view of the process, but also seriously focused on the timeline and some of the different tasks that need to be completed in a very short time frame, because we're looking at, actually, if the group intends to make a proposal, it has to be finished by probably the end of November to be taken to the Agency of Education by December or January, and then in short order put on the town ballots for approval for whatever the plan is. So it's very short, and that group plans to meet every other Tuesday beginning next week, the 16th.
Right.
To try to, and the meetings will be at the CDC. I believe it was 6:30. Was that our starting time? And they're going to continue meeting every 2 weeks with a timeline and a task proposal from Mr. Sanborn to try to complete the work in that time frame. So
It's every Tuesday? It's not Mondays?
No. It's the 16th and then the
30th.
30th,
Oh, the 30th.
right. 2 weeks
And then
later.
again, it is, I guess it's a little bit later in September because of the holiday in there, but it starts the 13th and the 20th or something like that. But the
13th,
Tuesdays
27th,
and every other Tuesday.
Okay. There was a letter included as an FYI about, it's about the Pownell Tannery hydroelectric proposal to the SVSU. And I don't know if you want to comment on that or not.
I really have not heard much from this group, although I did hear that it was not going to happen because it became too costly for them to meet the commitments that they had from all the boards, so.
Okay. So
Let's
who
leave it-
was,
let's leave
who
it
was,
at that.
who was on that? Was that just Stitzel that, who was meeting with?
They came, that's why I don't have that personal information.
Okay.
This Bill Scully came personally to board meetings and made his proposal for becoming members of this hydroelectric net metering group. And then each board approved whether they wanted to become part of that group or not. Many of them did, because they felt that it would become a cost savings for energy. But then this letter is the notice that it is not going to happen.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair report?
I don't have one.
That's nice.
I ought to mention briefly that I'm expecting stuff to start coming in about tuition applications.
Right.
And I guess I will be dealing with that as it happens. And so I will keep you apprised as I begin to see how it shapes up.
Okay.
And that's all I have. So
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
No
second.
second. Oh, darn.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.